any team that's doing better than Ferrari, Ferrari will say that, well, it's because we were DQ'd and that we're better. But I'm going to argue, no, you're not better because you made a serious mistake in your design concept. Right now, Ferrari has a problem with the skid, what they call it, the skid plank.
Skid
It's
block.
clear. Skid block, yeah. In Australia, the rumors are that that's why they were doing bad in free practice, and so because the skid block was bad, because when they have a low downforce, it causes more wear on the skid block. So they realized that they were going to fail the skid block test, and also they were going to fail the weight test because when your skid block degrades, your weight. So they moved it up. Then they did badly in Australia, and they said it was because they were adjusting for the rain. But to me, they were adjusting their ride height because they knew they didn't want to fail that test. Then they got desperate and they wanted to have a photo moment for Lewis Hamilton. So I believe that they now went back to their low downforce, knowing the skid block would degrade. You see what I'm saying? I felt like, but my guess is that it didn't degrade because it's only a 19 lap race, and 19 laps is not enough to degrade the skid block. You get my point, which is why Lewis Hamilton did so well because he had super downforce. That's why that car was in great force. But coming into the main race, they had to make adjustments again because they know that with 56 laps, that skid block will reduce. And barely Leclerc didn't fail the skid block, but he failed the weight. I believe he failed the weight probably because his skid block was on the borderline, and Lewis Hamilton failed it. So whether Ferrari tries to hide it or not, they have a design flaw, and to me, their season is over. What do you think, Afolabi?
I agree with you. And like you rightly mentioned, the setup in Australia was too aggressive. So, like you rightly mentioned, they had to adjust the height. And then coming into Shanghai, going into the sprint race because of the distance not being much as the race, they took it for granted and they were able to do very well there. And then
Yeah,
they between the sprint and the race, they made further adjustments, which
to put it back
ultimately
to the right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But they, yeah, go ahead.
which ultimately screwed them up for the race. And if you look at it, the way it's been designed, this is a safety measure. And the skid block thing or the plank thing was introduced in 1994 when Ayrton Senna died in that fatality in Imola because they
Yeah,
felt that his Williams car was too close to the ground. So they had to give the ground some clearance with the skid block or
yeah,
the plank. And
yeah,
so it's one of the regulations of CIA that they take very, very seriously. They don't joke with it at all. And so
yeah,
I think it was 8.6 as against 9 millimeters. That was
yeah.
what they
Yeah,
did.
and my prediction is they probably had their car close to the ground for the sprint race so that they could win it. Then they
Yes, so that they
realized
could
that,
win it.
but
Yes.
it's only 19 laps. Then they realized that if they kept it at that level, the wear would be too much and they'd fail the test. So they probably tried to adjust it, but they still failed it. Now, Leclerc didn't fail the skid plank, but he failed weight. But that's an
Wait,
indicator
yeah.
that the plank was being degraded. And what I'm saying is that Ferrari has an ultimate flaw design. I don't know if this is linked. And Kune and you guys remember, I've been repeating this at infinitum. I got it right. Ad infinitum and ad hominem, which is another story.
But
I've been
I
saying
quite
this for
agree
weeks.
with you.
I've
And
been saying
because
this
it's,
for weeks. No, hold on, let me finish. I've been saying for
yeah,
weeks that altering their front suspension, you never know what changes can come. They altered their car too much. They should have just kept it the same as last year. What were you going to say, Afolabi? Yeah.
yeah, what I was going to say is that you are quite right. It's a design flaw. And I feel very sad because are they going to be able to tweak their design mid-season? Because this is not something that they can easily fix. This is
Nah,
a this is something that's going
it's
to
a
affect
serious mistake.
it's a
So,
serious
so
mistake. And if their design concept cannot fall within the window of tolerance of the FIA, how are they going to cope? Especially
no,
for
here.
it's going to be
So
difficult.
let's go. We'll go to Kunle after Lorato's here. So Lorato, what I'm basically saying is that Ferrari has a problem, and I think it's related by why they're both DQSs. They have their car height too low. It's too low given the fact that they have a plank which is wearing off. I believe that in the sprint race they made it low because it's only 19 laps and it would have minimal degradation for the plank. But in the higher race they adjusted it and it still fell out. And even though Leclerc didn't have a skid plank issue, he had an issue with weight. My guess is that it's because the plank went down too. This is a serious thing. And if you guys know it, you heard it first from me, not from anybody else in F1. I said moving that front suspension, you never know what could happen. I don't have proof that this is the cause of it, but why mess with your design when you had it last year rather than pushing forward? McLaren pushed forward with their front grip, but it was based on the evolution from having a stable platform. Ferrari changed their platform radically, and I think their season is over. What do you think, Leclerc? I said Leclerc. What do you think?
Yeah. No, call me Leclerc.
Charles
Call me Leclerc.
Leclerc.
Yeah,
I'll
you're a
take that.
Ferrari fan. Yeah.
I'll take that name. No, man. Yeah, I think, I mean, we knew it was a risk. It's always a risk with these cars changing anything. Any little bit that you change on the car changes the entire dynamic of the car. With what we've seen over the last 2 seasons, and I think McLaren are the only people who, like we've been saying, have been taking the slow route to upgrading,
Yeah.
to make sure what it is that they're doing is 100% on improving what it is that they're doing. um, of course, I mean, we've seen the struggles that, for example, Mercedes have had with their car being on a knife edge, Red Bull struggling with balance, and now, and Ferrari has always been actually quite the inconsistent one in terms of figuring out car setup.
Yeah.
And one would have thought that them having someone like Lewis Hamilton actually directing them to how to set up the car would actually sort of push them towards a little bit more stability. But I think that there's like a push and pull between the engineers and the drivers in terms of where to place the car.
Yeah.
Because I think the car was fine during the sprint. They shouldn't have changed it. But then
Yeah.
they went ahead
Well,
and
my theory is
changed.
that during the sprint they had their ride height lower because they know that the plank won't degrade. But
No,
now
no, no. They lowered the height.
they lowered
According
it during
to
the sprint. Yeah, during the sprint.
no, after the
Oh,
sprint
after.
for the
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
They lowered it after the
Oh,
sprint.
okay.
Um, so that
So,
so
but
so that's where they created the problem, and it also create. And I think they were trying to increase downforce by riding the car lower,
why
and
would you do that when you already had a stable car in the sprint?
yeah, because they were trying to gain more pace, and of course it's also like a move of panic, because they knew that the other cars were also going to change their setups in order to get their cars in the right window after the sort of like um, the sprint, which is kind of like FP2 FP3
Yeah.
type of thing. Yeah,
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 but they
yeah.
need to be
So
realists, man. They need to be realists.
yeah. But I think this idea of like not being sure of themselves and not being confident in what they had
It's pure chaos.
is what messed them up, I think. Yeah. They had a great car I mean, both qualifying and sprint showed that car could be stable within that window. And
Well,
like
given that
we're,
track, we
we're
don't know what's
saying,
going to happen on other tracks. Yeah, but yeah.
yeah. But I'm saying it like given the fact that changing suspension, changing a wing, changing anything changes the entire dynamic
Yeah.
of the car, where you would have to change other body
Yeah.
parts as well in order to have proper correlation throughout the car in terms of
Yeah.
aerodynamics.
It seems to
So
me that
so so it's a bit.
they're just rolling a dice. They don't. They have the problem Mercedes had a couple of years. They don't really understand that car. This thing is supposed to be a science. McLaren is a science. McLaren can predict what's going to happen before they even enter the competition.
For sure, for sure. You always hear Andre Stella telling you, this is not a good track for us,
Mhm.
but we've got a setup that we think will work, that will at least put us in third or fourth or something like that, and they end up there or thereabouts.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's weird though because when they raised their height in Australia, it hurt them. So there's something going on. There's a lot of other issues with that car, other variables. Sometimes when they raise
yeah.
it, they don't know
No.
what's going
I
on.
think there's a lot of variables with every car.
Yeah, but they don't
Um,
understand their
and
variables. Apparently, yeah.
yeah, who's that? McLaren.
Ferrari. I'm talking about
Oh,
Ferrari.
Ferrari. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
because Hamilton
Yeah,
said that. Hamilton said that he saw Leclerc do something that worked, so he decided to do it also, but it backfired in Australia. You see what I'm saying? He said that, oh, it seems that this worked for Leclerc, so let me try it too. It's like they're just trying their luck. They're not really. It
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
seem
no.
like they're evidence
I mean, unfortunately, during the season itself, they're still experimenting with how to make that front
Good luck.
suspension work for them in
And
the
I keep
best
saying
way
they should have just
possible.
kept what they knew. Red Bull. So we're going to move on